Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Johnna Knows Good Food. Today's episode is titled Johnna Knows Good Food for the Fall. During the fall, there are three general topics that come to mind. That's football season, cooler weather, and pumpkins. The first recipe I will concoct today will be an Italian sausage hoagie with beer-infused cheese, which matches perfect with Sunday night football. The second recipe is tomato soup with a secret special ingredient. The third recipe is a pumpkin spice white chocolate fondue. And the final recipe is a warm, soothing fall drink, rum apple cider. Ready for fall? Let's get started. So the first recipe that I'm going to be working with is the Italian sausage hoagie. So I just buy the sausages in the store that are already packaged, like I'm no particular or no special order going to, a special place to buy the meat. You can just get it out of your local grocery store because this is, supposed to be basically like street fare, but in your house. So I'm just going to toss that, and I'm going to get this cut. Now, I've been working on my knife skills, and I guess they don't really have to come into play here because it's really just sausages and just a matter of slicing it down the middle. So you just take your sausage, and you want to slice it down the center because what you're going to add in here is the sliced onions, bell peppers, and the cheese. Now I have a grill pan going. It's already heated and I have a little bit of oil on it. So I'm just going to add my sausage and you're going to hear it sizzle. It should. You hear that? Well, you can't really hear it, but I can hear it. So I'm just going to add that. I'll add another one because I'll be sharing. It is football season, so generally you have guests over. And to this, I'm not going to add any real salt or pepper. I'm going to add just a little bit or a little bit of pepper because I do want like a little bit of a kick to it. But we're just going to add that and let that cook on it's lightly oiled. Like I don't want a lot of oil because I don't want the I don't want the sausages to be too greasy and greased down, even though it is football season and it's the time to have comfort food. In this other pot, you see it's already hot and steaming, almost burning. I'm going to add some beer because I want to make my cheese beer infused. I mean, during football season, you generally sit around, drink beer, and eat good food. So I'm going to add clearly I don't drink beer. This is like 12 full ounces. I'm just going to remove that really quick because it's really hot. So you see there? It's already bubbling. It'll be exactly where I want it, ready for the cheese. So I'm just going to toss that. I'm going to bring that over here. And I'm going to let that get warm because the beer's been sitting in the refrigerator for a while. It's kind of cool. And you can hear those sausages going. Now, in my last episode, I told you about these ready-made, sliced and diced items that they sell in the grocery store now. This one in particular is red bell peppers and onions and green bell peppers, and I like them already sliced. I mean, it just makes it a lot easier, especially during this time of the year. And I'm just going to open that and toss a little bit of this over the sausages because we want those to cook, get a little soft, and go along with that. And hopefully the sausages will pick up a little bit of that onion flavor. So I'm just going to add that in, set this aside. Whoa, my beer is heating up there. Now that that's up to temperature, I can actually turn this down a little bit. I'm going to turn that down to like medium heat and just sit that right there. Now, for the cheese, I'm going to grab a pack of cheese. This is about 2 cups of cheese. And I'm going to continue to turn this down a little bit. But this is about 2 cups of cheese. I'm just going to add this to about 2 to 3 tablespoons of flour. Just going to toss all that in there because we want to use all this cheese for that. And basically, I'm just going to toss this together. You can just do it by hand. And you just want to make sure the flour is getting all into the cheese. So that way it'll serve as a thickener for the cheese when it's in the beer. Now, just going to continue to toss this together, losing some there. Throw this. I like a clean kitchen when I'm cooking, so we're just going to have that right there. Now, the beer is nice and bubbling, and it's perfect. So I'm going to check my sausages out, though, first before I begin that process. So the sausages, you can hear it now. Now you can hear what's going on in here. You see those marks, those grill marks? I mean, right now, people really don't want, or as the fall comes in, people really don't want to go outside and be on the grill. It's cold. Kind of just want to stay inside. These grill pans are excellent. Beer, I'm going to add a little bit of cheese, and I'm just going to take it bit by bit because you don't want to add too much at a time. And I'm just going to stir that in there. Just going to stir that until it gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And probably just add the whole thing until, let's see how this turns out. Sorry, this bowl is kind of heavy. And so there we go. You see? Now that's what I'm talking about, right here. See how that's like turning into this gooey consistency. And honestly now, it's at the consistency I want. And it has the beer flavor and the beer smell in there. So I'm going to set that aside. And the sausages are done. So the last piece of this puzzle is the hoagie. And I'm just going to add that to the pan. Now there's a lot going on in this pan. Basically, we're ready. And since it's football season, I typically would not have paper plates on my show, but it's football season. I think we're ready. That's time for me. Just want it toasted just enough. Now, this is where it gets fun. I'll take the really long piece and put it in here. And just stick that in here. Grab some of those peppers. Just grab as many as you like. Stick those in the center. Grab some more. I like a lot of onions and peppers, and you can honestly take the time to cut them up. But if you're just going to have a last-minute Sunday night football gathering, why not just buy them as they come in the store? And for the final part, the beer-infused cheese. Let's see, it's perfect. See, it's ready. It's dripping. Now, I'm just going to slather that on top. See, it's not coming. It's not staying on. Come on, cheese. Let's see. There we go. Now, here we go. Okay, it's a little messy, but it looks and it probably tastes really delicious. See, there's a little like something hanging on there. Okay, now, there we go. It's ready. Now you can pair that with some chips or whatever, but the cheese is up there, the peppers are up there, and I'm just going to take a bite right before we begin our next segment. This is so good. The cheese with the beer, it adds the perfect effect. So let's get this cleaned up because we want to start on our next recipe. This recipe focuses on the cold weather that is coming in with the fall. Soup. Every year I make some different version of some soup. And this year I decided to do a tomato soup because tomatoes are pretty much well into season around until about like October. So I'm going to be, of course, using tomatoes. And the secret ingredient I was telling you about earlier, I'm using chicken gizzards. Now, a lot of people frown their face up at that, but chicken gizzards are so delicious in tomato soup. And I'm going to pull those from the refrigerator really quickly because they're going to come in at a point in the recipe where I just kind of want to just slide them in. So I'm just going to cut this open. And I just want to give them a little rinse. You know, when you're messing around with poultry, you definitely want to make sure that it's cleaned and, you know, it's not, and, you know, it's clean, basically. So I'm going to come over here and wash this out, rinse these off. And I'm just going to leave these over here for a second because I'm going to start with my, I'm going to rinse those off, leave those to the side, wash my hands, of course, because when you're messing around with chicken, you don't want to get sick. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to get the rest of the stuff ready for the soup. Now, in this soup, I'm going to use this thing that I found at the grocery store. Another quick trick is soup greens. In the grocery store, they'll have these pre-packaged, pretty much vegetables that you can just lift in any type of soup that you want. And for this particular soup, I love these soup greens because they have so many flavors. There's parsley in here. There's carrots. There's onions. There's celery. Basically, all the things or the essential things that you want in your soup. So I'm just going to pull those out and just show you. I'm only going to use half of these ingredients because honestly, I don't want them to overpower the rest of this soup because really the star of the show is the gizzards and the tomatoes. So I'm just going to I took half of those. I'm going to set the other half aside. Don't need those. Now, you see I have a slow cooker. I like to use mine in the slow cooker. You can cook it on the stove if you want. But the slow cooker makes your life a lot easier. You can just toss these in at night, and then the next morning they're done, and you can take a bowl to work, and it tastes delicious reheated. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit. People that love, fresh tomatoes and things would prefer that I, actually cook the tomatoes, put them in the food processor, and have the soup. For me, I'm all about quick. So I'm using about 10 ounces of tomato soup as a thickener and a way to add that additional tomato flavor. And I'm just going to go ahead and add this and one can of a 14-ounce can of chicken broth because the chicken broth and the tomato soup need to be a little bit warm so that way they can kind of boil the vegetables when they're added to the pot. And with the boiled vegetables, when the vegetables have softened up a little bit, that's when I add in my gizzards because the gizzards aren't going to take that long to cook. And in the slow cooker, they definitely won't take that long. I mean, well, you'll be sleeping while they're being cooked. Now, to this, I'm just going to leave this to its own, and I'm going to grab a spoon because I want to stir those up. So get that combined in there, and as you can see, like the soup and the broth are just going to kind of sit there, and they're just going to warm up. Now, I believe I have this set on low. Let's see. Let's get that set high. Now, if you have it on high, you want to only cook this for maybe 3.5, 4 hours. So I'm just going to sit that's done, to the side. Discard these things. As I said, I can't stand a messy kitchen when I'm cooking. And we're just going to peel the carrots really quickly. And you can do this while you're sitting in front of the TV. When you get home from work, it doesn't take that long. And it honestly is such a relief just to have this soup on the side. And you can take it to work, serve it with grilled cheese. I was actually thinking the other day of an idea of a grilled cheese that I want to put with this. And you can just be very liberal with this. You know what? I mean, because I like my carrots kind of chunky. They're good for you. I have too much going on this cutting board, or maybe I just need a bigger cutting board. But anyhow, I'm just going to cut these up, like I said, very liberally, a couple of them, even the bunch. And we're just going to add them. As they're cut, just add them to the pot. Remove that. Carrots go in there. Drop those in there real quick. And you can add as much or as little as you like if you don't like a particular thing. For instance, this little piece of celery is enough for me. I don't need a lot of celery to make me happy in my soup. I cut those ends off because I don't like the way they look. But the rest of it, we get those in there. And see, this is enough for me. Add that to the bunch. Okay, this little boy is ready to be peeled. So, like I said, this makes it a lot easier. You can also, pick out the veggies that you want in the store. You can add broccoli. I actually picked up this recipe from my aunt who used to make this soup. She used to make soup with gizzards every winter. And I just thought it was the strangest thing because I'd never seen anyone use gizzards besides for nothing. There was nothing I can think of that gizzards are used for except for this soup. Oops. Leaving there. So basically, I decided, okay, I want to cut out some of the things that she puts in hers and, add my own little twist to it. So I'm just going to cut those ends off. Ooh. It's giving me a tough time there. Like I said, be very liberal in what you add. Yep, so I'm just adding these in here. Like I said, tossing the ends, the pieces that I don't like, and just being very liberal about it. And like I said, I would add, next time I probably make this, I'll add some corn to it. And, my own additions. The star of the show, really, like I said, is the tomatoes. I leave everything in here. As a matter of fact, before I even cut them, if I was at home, instead of in front of you good folks, I would squeeze all of this juice in here and let that soak in with the rest of the vegetables as it cooks. But for all intents and purposes today, I'm just going to drop them in there like that. Like I said, I'll be very liberal. And see, it's getting chunky already, so I really, honestly, I don't need much more than a couple more pieces and add in those herbs and spices, and I'm done. The soup is ready to cook itself, basically. Oof, it's getting messy over here. Okay, so instead of adding, additional more stuff, I think I'm just going to stir those things in there, but I'm going to let those cook for a second. And as I'm doing that, I'm just going to, like I said, I'm being very liberal. Typically, people cut these. I'm not even going to cut them because I'm just going to toss them in. I want the leaves and everything to be in there. And it tastes delicious when the soup is finally done because all those flavors just kind of emerge themselves together. And you can just pull the ends off, toss those in there. It gives it a beautiful, beautiful color at the end because you have all this red. And it's very in season. Red, those orange, as the leaves change, it kind of reminds me of being outside. So I've added all I need in there because I don't need a lot. Like I said, that's probably about 1 teaspoon, maybe 2 teaspoons of whatever your favorite spices and flavors are. Add just a drop of salt. If you know me, I don't like a lot of salt. And if you like a little bite, you could add some red pepper flakes or more pepper. And I think that's all we need for now. We're just going to let that cook for a second. And like I said, I'm going to grab my gizzards and we're going to add those to the pot. Now, the gizzards are rinsed and ready to be added. And just give those another quick rinse. And I'm just going to bring this to the pot. So see, okay, if you've never seen a gizzard, this is what it looks like. And they're delicious. I mean, you can judge me if you will, but if you taste this soup, you would love it. So I'm just adding that in there. Like I said, you can add it at the beginning, you can add it at the end. Either way, they're going to all cook together, and it won't be anything. You won't, harm yourself but you definitely got to let it cook for at least. I stay on the safe side. I do the full 8 hours at night. At 8 o'clock, if I get home, then I'll just drop these in there. And you don't even have to use a whole pack of these. Save the gizzards for something else, something else you want to do. And so I'm just going to stir those in there. And I'm going to let that cook. Now I left my onion out. I might add a little bit later. But for now, all intents and purposes, we're just going to let that cook. And we're going to set this to the side. And I'm going to wash my hands because I've been messing with poultry and I don't want to get sick. So the soup is pretty much just cooking and brewing now. And all that's left for me to do is to wait for it to be done. Lucky for me and lucky for you, this is TV time. So the soup is done. I made a bowl this morning, or it prepared overnight, and this is the finished product. This is what it'll look like, pretty much what it looks like right now in there. But this is cooked. This is the gizzards. These are all the spices, the parsley, everything. The celery is cooked, the tomatoes and onions. And another great trick is potatoes. I love potatoes, but add those at the very end if you decide to do it. And I'm just going to take a bite. I feel warm and tingly. I feel really good about this, and you should too. Welcome to the fall. Now for our third recipe. This is going to be a white chocolate pumpkin spice fondue. Now, I told you before that I wanted to use something that had pumpkins in it because, this is the season of pumpkins. So we're going to start this recipe with about a half a stick of butter. Just going to cut this in half. I like mine to be just a little, at room temperature, so it's a little soft, not really hard. So we're just going to slide that in the pan. Come on, butter. Okay, it's getting a little messy there. And you see how the butter is sizzling there. We're going to add 1 cup of heavy whipping cream to that. Now, I like to measure that out only because I don't want it to be too much or, too little for that matter. And I'm just a big measurer, so I'll know the next time what to add, what to take out. So you hear that sizzling, and it really smells good. I mean, butter, with whipping cream. I really have to stay away from foods like that. But I'm just going to combine those, if you see in the pan, just until they're bubbling. And that's not going to take very long because, like I said, the butter's already at room temperature. So we're just going to continue to combine that. I'm going to let that melt. And while that's melting, I'm going to discard a couple things over here. Now, with the fondue, I say this is an excellent investment. During the winter months or cooler months, this is the perfect entertaining mechanism because everyone is generally inside, and this gives your guests something to look at, something to play around with, and it takes 5 seconds. You're just going to see how quick this is going to take me to make this, and it'll be a good treat for everyone. Now, set that butter aside, and I've already prepped the fondue pot. The bottom should be heated. Follow the instructions of whatever your fondue pot says, but mine specifically, I just add this little heating thing, throw a match to it, and it's ready to go. And I'm just going to let that heat up. You see this is already heated. These are together, and they're pretty much ready for my chocolate. I'm going to remove this from the heat, move it over here. And you can grab any type of white chocolate morsels that you like. I just snagged these from the grocery store. They're just the white chocolate chips. And you see, I'm going to pour a couple into my hand so you can see them before they go in the pot. You see, those are like instead of the chocolatey ones, we're just going to add the white chocolate ones. And they are delicious. I mean, just going to add those in there. Just be liberal about it. Just throw them in there. No need to be fancy at this point. So it's already, and you just combine this. Just stir those in there. Just stir it in there, and you see how it's combining and that whipping cream, and the heat is melting the chocolate for you. So it's going to come to a thick consistency, and that way we can just add it into the fondue pot, and it'll be ready for dipping. Now, you could just make a white chocolate fondue if you wanted to, or you can make it special like I want to for this season. Pumpkins generally come up because there's Thanksgiving, there's Halloween, there's all these different festivities that surround the pumpkin. So you see, it's coming to a thicker consistency, and it's just like basically a sugar fest, which I love and hate because I'm not a huge sweets person, but I like white chocolate. So to that, that's all mixed in there. To that, we're going to add, I just got some pumpkin spice from the store. And I'm not going to measure this out. I'm just going to put a little in the palm of my hand. That could be enough. That could be a little bit too much. But hey, it's pumpkin season, and they're all over the grocery store. I went in the store yesterday, and they were everywhere. I was like, wow. Immediately. It's like last week, they were selling grills and, charcoal. Now it's all about pumpkins. So you see it's changed kind of the color, and it's got a darker color and a darker consistency, and you just continue to stir that and add it back to the heat to get it a little bit, heated before you add it to the fondue pot, and just continue to stir until it's all in there. Now you're ready to add it to your fondue pot. You see how quick that was? Quick, easy trick for when you have guests over. I'm just going to scoot this close to me because I don't want to burn myself. And I want to make sure all of it gets into the fondue pot so everyone can enjoy. And you just add this to your fondue pot. You see that? I don't know if you can see what's going on in the pan because I'm really trying to show you. But it's all in there. And it's thick and it's creamy. And it's ready to serve to your guests. Whew, I just dropped a little bit up there. I'm going to turn this off because we're done with that. Going to put this top back on. And with my pumpkin spice fondue, I'm serving mine with pound cake, and it's sugar-free pound cake because you have so much sugar already in the fondue, you don't even need it. And then there's graham cracker cookies. Now, you can serve it with whatever you like, but I'm going to use the pound cake because I love the way pound cake and chocolate taste together. So you see that? Oh, it looks so, and it smells so heavenly in here, the pumpkins. I could eat a whole pot by myself. So with that being said, let me step away from the fondue. Now for the fourth and final recipe of the fall, drinks.